Welcome to Grow For It. It's a podcast for small business owners, managers, and professionals. The goal is to give me a chance to work with the space between your ears, on your mindset, to help you focus on the things that really matter to your success. I want to enable you to concentrate on pursuing your vision, setting meaningful goals, and engaging in the day-to-day activities that will have the biggest impact. Thanks for joining me. Well, friends, welcome back. Today I've got a guest with me. This is Dr. Tony Sheppard. Dr. Sheppard is actually a psychologist here in Louisville, and he's run a pretty interesting practice. It's called Groupworks Psychological Services, and they're located right over in DuPont Circle here in Louisville, Kentucky. But Tony, welcome, buddy. I'm glad you made time for me.
Thanks, Jim. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Today, what we really want to do, and I thought for the audience this might be a really good time out and some of the other things that we talk about. Today, we really want to focus on maintaining your mental health, especially with a lot that's been going on in the last several months, both with COVID, now with, you've got an election coming up, you've got the protests and riots, and there just seems to be a lot of negative pressure out there. And I thought, Tony, this would be a great time to have you in and kind of talk a little bit about your background and really see if you might be able to give us some tips going forward to how we can begin to filter some of that out, cope with it, deal with it, and still maintain focus on the family and the business that we need to do. So do me a favor, guy. Introduce yourself and let us know all about your practice.
Well, I'm Tony Sheppard. I've moved to Louisville in, I'm not going to say how long ago. It's been quite a while to attend Spalding University. I graduated from the Doctor of Psychology program over there at Spalding. So any Spalding alums out there, shout out. And started my own practice in 2005, and I've been doing that since then. I'm a certified group psychotherapist, one of the only CGPs in Louisville. Actually, we have two CGPs in our practice. So one of our name, Groupworks Psychological Services, even though we provide all forms of therapy and psychological services, including testing, right. We specialize in group therapy, and we work with ages really from early elementary. We have a group from early elementary all the way through young adulthood now. And one of my goals for 2020 that might have gotten a little sidelined by what we're going to be talking about today.
I think you have a lot of goals got sidelined.
I think so. I've got a whole page, 2 pages of practice goals that got sidelined. I'm glad to talk about that a little later. But one of my goals for 2020 was to actually start an outpatient adult therapy group.
Right.
So that is not off the table, but that's something that we'd like to do, to be able to go from early elementary all the way up to adulthood with our groups.
Well, and Tony, just as a practitioner, I mean, you've actually counseled adults, families.
I have
all of that, and you continue to do that anyway. But now with the group opportunity and things like that, and of course now with COVID, I think a lot of this has transitioned to a telehealth type format. So, I mean, how has that been going?
Well, we're right now almost 100% telehealth. The only office-based services that we're offering right now is psychological testing, and that's on a pretty limited basis with masks and social distancing as much as we can. So we're pretty much 100% telehealth, including our groups with young people. So it's been a challenge. As you know, we're a practice that always has valued technology and the use of technology. And so we were very fortunate to be able to roll into that pretty easily. We were able to subscribe to the HIPAA-compliant version of Zoom, which does not have, I know we saw a lot of negative press around Zoom.
Right.
The HIPAA-compliant version, which is a paid version, did not have a lot of those problematic
the hacks and
things,
like that,
the Zoom bombing, things like that. So it has been, I would say, successful. I think our clients saw a seamless rollover, where something I'm very proud of, that I think a lot of folks struggled, especially that weren't as tech savvy. So we've done all right with it, and things are going well. Even surprisingly, even groups with elementary school kids are going fairly well.
I tell you what's so interesting. My kiddos are both in college now. I've got one up at Purdue, one up at IU, And a lot of, as with most students, they all had to go online in this past semesters. And that, I think that generation kind of adapted that a little bit easier than maybe our generation. I mean, it's just a little bit, we're used to face, and
Right.
and that generation's a little bit different. But
Yeah.
maybe that's a path we've gone down that we may not come back from. I think this telemedicine, this telehealth, a lot of the online stuff that we're doing is probably here to stay.
I think that and telecommuting.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
you've seen large companies say that, Twitter, I believe, and maybe even Facebook, if I'm not mistaken, have said, some of their staff can work from home forever.
Right.
For as long as they're employed with the company.
There's ways to measure productivity. If it's there, why do you need the real estate?
Right.
I think that's one of the things that I value about this conversation with you today is that you're a practice owner, you're a business owner,
Yep.
And you've gone through this transition of, oh my gosh, I've got to take everything online now.
Yep.
So you've kind of done it, and one step further, you actually contracted COVID. So you've kind of walked that back too. I'm glad to see you, buddy. Glad you're back.
I'm glad to be
We kind of live
here.
in the same neighborhood, so I see you from time to time. I'm glad you're up and going.
Against my family's advice, I went to a conference in New York in late February.
Wow.
And I said, no, of course I won't get the virus. I'm going to be careful. I'm taking immune booster vitamins, and I'm gonna use hand sanitizer. And lo and behold, I did get the virus. I had it presented as bronchitis. I was diagnosed with bronchitis actually when I went to see the nurse practitioner when I got back to Louisville. And in retrospect, hearing that a lot of people who were at that same conference were diagnosed with COVID-19 with similar symptoms, I did the antibody test and I had it.
There it is.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, buddy, I know you were down for the count for a while. We have some mutual friends, and we had spoken. In fact, Kelly Brown, who's been on this podcast a while back when she was launching her book, had mentioned that you were really struggling with it for a while. So full recovery. Congratulations.
Yep.
I'm glad you're back at it.
Yep. Glad to be. I feel very fortunate in so many ways to be weathering this thing as well as I can.
Yeah. Well, as we talk about this, I mean, a big part of what's going on, obviously, is the impact of COVID-19. And as a business owner, an entrepreneur, as a I don't know, an organizational leader, manager, things like that, there are a lot of different pressures that other people may not totally have to deal with. But when it's your name on the door, when it's your business, I mean, obviously you feel that. And I think because of the lockdown and things like that, we're dealing with a lot of advanced financial pressures. I mean, some of us were, just trying to eke out a living to begin with. Now this thing and shutting down businesses and lockdowns and supply chain interruptions. Well, I think the financial pressures obviously have amped up, which has also led to, increased stress and anxiety. And some of that might be related to just, wow, my business might actually fail. My business may actually not recover from this. I might personally, but my business may be gone. And that helplessness feeling. So these are some of the things I want to try to unpack and try to get some ideas of how can a business owner, how can adults and ultimately kiddos begin to deal with this. And then the thing I found myself really struggling with was just distractions. I mean, I would come into the office, here's the list of things I got to do today, and just almost feel stuck. And that inability to focus was incredible. I didn't expect that, but I guess all of this is coming at you, and you can't help but pay attention to some of it.
I think during the quarantine, the shutdown, I found myself, constantly in between sessions checking news apps.
Yeah.
Just to see what's coming next. And I think this has really served to sort of amp up and prime our anxiety system. We don't deal well with uncertainty as human beings. Most of us really like to know what's coming next. We're kind of wired that way. Yeah. We're also wired to some extent to kind of scan the environment out there and look for potential threats. Normally, under normal circumstances, that's I think you and I were chatting before. You said on a 0 to 10 scale that might be a level 2 or 3. Under normal circumstances, we're walking around and we're saying, well, I want to make sure that
look both.
I want to
ways
make sure that I'm safe. I'm looking both ways when I'm crossing the street and things like that. When you have this ambiguous sort of threat out there of a disease that we don't have a lot known about it. It really amps us up, and it puts us on, at a 6 or a 7 on that all the time. And with something like this, it's not, it could be anywhere. It could be on the box that comes from UPS. It could be on a carryout. They say food, and I have done plenty of carryout. I want to support the restaurants. I don't want to spread fear there.
Yeah.
But we are dealing with something that is not well defined, and that puts us on edge, and it carries over into all aspects of our life. I'm finding when I talk to people that people, yes, there's anxiety about the virus, but that spreads to anxiety about, is my mom okay? Is my grandmother okay? Is my business okay? And some of those threats, you look at, as a business owner, you look at companies like Pier 1 shutting down. Pier 1, went to Pier 1 all the time growing up. Sears is on the ropes. J.C. Penney's closing stores. Starbucks is closing 400 stores. You start to see that as a business owner, and you think, whoa, what's going on here?
Right, this is bigger than me.
It's bigger than me, and they've been around a lot longer than I have. So it kind of shakes the foundation. It shakes us at our foundation, and really provides. It is it's both a distraction and a reminder that, hey, there are people failing out there that are pillars of our society.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that we talked about in the show prep, was just how the human mind seems to be, and you know more as a psychologist, you know more about this, seems to be wired to focus on the negative rather than the positive. So when you see all these things.
Yeah, I think that's part of that kind of adaptive, it's adaptive when you really think about it, to be looking for the threats out there. 30,000 years ago, we were out hunting, and right. we had the old analogy of the saber-toothed tiger. You need to be on alert. Maybe your neighbor who's trying to club you over the head to take your
take your berries,
to take
or
whatever you hunted and gathered.
Hey, look at my pterodactyl.
Genetically, we haven't changed. There's a lot that hasn't changed about us in that period of time. So we do have that leftover system of scanning that environment, looking for the threats, and I think that does sometimes cause us to hyper focus on the negative. Because we don't want to be surprised by anything. So when we see all this uncertainty out there, we are prone to saying, well, maybe I'm next. Maybe I'm the next J.C. Penney. Am I going to be closing, if I have a branch office, am I going to have to close that? Am I going to have to lay off employees like some of these other big companies have? So we do tend to go to that negative. Is somebody in my family going to contract COVID? Am I going to contract COVID? Even worse, I have a mother who is almost 92 in assisted living. We can't go visit her right now, but even if I could, I don't think I would, because of that fear that, am I going to carry the virus in there to her?
Right, it just kind of paralyzes everything.
It does.
It does. It's that I'm not in control of this.
Right.
That really kind of disrupts everything.
Right.
Maybe more. And it's not only the business that it disrupts, but it's also you can't not bring that home to the family sometimes.
That's right.
And I think that's another big stressor here is, hey, my family's struggling or my marriage is struggling now because I can't, and I'm not in control of that either. I don't know how to stop.
Right. Well, yeah, I think, you're looking at families where everybody's dealing with some version of this. In my own household, I had a spouse that started working from home. Our dining room is now an office.
Right.
That happened in mid-March. Actually, when I came back and showed some symptoms, her workplace said, we'd like you to quarantine at home. And then since then, her employer has encouraged everybody to work from home. So, you got a spouse working from home. I'm leaving the house, going to my office to do telehealth for privacy purposes. But we have a 7th grader and a college student who all of a sudden are schooling at home. So, everything from physical space to just coping with all the change. You start to unpack all of that. Not everybody lives in a mansion, right? And nor, I certainly don't. You've got a college student trying to study while a 7th grader is watching a video for class, and they clash
all the time.
a college student who normally has had a library to go to or a dorm room to go to or whatever. And then on top of that, on top of those just logistical issues, you've got the psychological loss of a college student losing that college experience.
Right. And the freedom that comes along with it, maybe.
The freedom that comes along with it, certainly. Yep. You've got a seventh grader who's dealing with the loss of friends and seeing teachers and actually learning in a kind of a three-dimensional real environment. Yeah. And then you've got parents who are coping with the loss of coworkers, trying to adapt to using online platforms, maybe learning technology, working with IT departments to get access to certain things. So it just, I'm thinking of one of those stress questionnaires that maybe people might have filled out at some point in their lives. And I'm thinking that during this, if we filled one of those out, we'd max it out.
Most likely. Most
of us would.
Tony, we're going to continue the discussion, but how do people learn more about your practice, the Groupworks? I mean, how do we? You've got a pretty advanced website. You've got videos out there.
Yeah, we have some videos on our website, on our Facebook page. On our Google listing, we have some videos up. Groupworksky.com is our website. We, as you know, Jim, we really take it seriously to be of service to the community, whether you become a client or not. We obviously would love for people to come to us if they need help, because we are passionate about what we do, and we try to be on the cutting edge of not only technology but our own field. Clinical psychology and group psychotherapy and psychological assessment. But we do have resources on our website for many, many things, including a COVID-19 page that has some, it's an update on our practice, but it's also a list of resources.
Fantastic. So if I'm dealing with this, I can go there and for free,
absolutely,
take advantage of some of the resources that you collected and provided.
That's right. Link over to resources that we've screened and that we recommend, and obviously you never know, any resource can fail us, but we make a real effort to only link to things that are reputable, research-based, that kind of thing, so that people are getting the best information they can. We have a lot of grief resources. Dr. Jacqueline Love, who works with us, is a grief expert, so we have a grief counseling page with resources there on grief. Well, like I said, we have the COVID-19 page. We've got a lot of videos about our groups and about what we do in our practice, so you can go, and particularly myself and Dr. Zach Thieneman, who's the assistant director. I'm the founder and director, and he's the assistant director, of me and Dr. Thieneman talking about what we do. And I think that the videos really, I wanted the videos to really capture our passion for what we do. Right. And I think they did.
Well, fantastic.
I think we got that. So, yeah, I'd love for people to take advantage of that, whether you're looking for face-to-face services or telehealth services or not. Maybe you just want some resources as a start. Go to our website and take advantage of some of those. That's what they're there for.
Well, as we kind of jump back into the episode here, I mean, obviously, I would think some of the bigger challenges for business owners, operators, deal with, keeping things in perspective right now.
Yep.
And also maintaining that focus on the things that we still need to execute on a daily, weekly basis.
Yep.
For the sake of the business. Because if those are off kilter, if those are not aligned the way they normally would be, that can have a significant negative impact on your performance and also your just general mental health. I mean, let's try to talk about that a little bit. Are there tips or tools for the professional that might, just again, something that they could do on a periodic basis to kind of okay, let's rebalance here. Let's take a time out. Let's keep from getting so overwhelmed, because I know a lot of times when I've got all these reports, I've got people wondering, I've got clients asking this, I've got this, I've got to get out.
Yep.
Families calling. Sometimes just in a normal time, it's hard to juggle all of that. Now amp up everything else that's happening.
Yep.
How would you advise or coach a professional right now to say, okay, wait a minute, you got to take care of yourself first.
Yep.
And are there some de-stress techniques or tips like that that you might recommend?
As you're talking, Jim, I'm reminded of, I have a colleague who we have been supportive of each other through this. We've We've had some socially distanced lunches in our office, and especially during the quarantine phase of it. And he said to me one day, he said, we're not breaking records right now. We're keeping the ship afloat.
Yeah.
And I think to give ourselves permission and reframe this time in our lives, our professional lives, that's been helpful for me, just to reframe it in that way, to say that I think I shared with you when we were chatting before that I had started 2020 by making a 2-page list of practice goals. Very aspirational document. A lot of that's on hold right now because it's just not, in light of what we're dealing with and resources needing to be channeled in other directions. Some of the things aren't possible because we're not meeting face to face with people. So I think just to, realize that for a lot of us, 2020 may not be a record year. Right. It may not be a record year financially. It may not be a record year in terms of what we feel we accomplish. So just giving ourselves a little break there to be able to say, okay, the goal, what is my goal right now? My goal right now is not what I thought it was going to be on January 1. My goal right now is to keep the ship floating.
Right.
So I think that's been tremendous for me. And as I've talked with clients and colleagues, adjusting those expectations is critical.
And so much in your practice has got to be about giving yourself permission to feel a certain way or to accept the things that are outside of your immediate direct control. And there's a lot of that right now. If I were still
focusing on that 2-page list of goals right now and trying to scramble and I think accomplish those. Yeah. I would not. My mental health would not be great. I think also you mentioned perspective earlier. Just keeping things in perspective. What is my goal right now? We've had. I think our business slowed down a little bit in the beginning of things when everything was quarantined. I think one thing I faced was just not panicking. Not jumping to conclusions. I think you have to keep yourself in the present and deal with what's in front of you, not what your anxiety puts in front of you.
That fear reaction, that nervous reaction
of we're going under.
Right. Right. Sky's falling.
The sky's falling. Yeah. I think that if you are a news person, you can look at the news and come away feeling like, the sky is falling. I think it's moderated a little bit now that we're
starting to come out a little bit from the lockdowns.
We're coming out of lockdown. We're reopening. There's a lot of uncertainty about what's coming. I think that accepting that. I was trying to find an article this morning. I was when I was having my coffee, I was trying to find an article. I checked several news sources that would tell me what's coming next. Maybe that was me and my I just woke up haze. But I wanted an article that was going to tell me what's coming next with COVID-19. I couldn't find one.
Right. No.
There's speculation from experts. So I think just right now for me, it's trying to live in it today. Doing what I know I need to do today and not worrying about what the fall is going to look like. Right. I can't anticipate that. None of us can.
Well, I think that mindfulness is an important thing. How are you feeling right now? What's driving those emotions? Yep. And are there ways that you've typically either used yourself or recommended that people can kind of take that mental pause, that time out, and that kind of recalibration period? I mean, meditation, some people love to meditate first thing in the morning, listen to music or things. Yep. I think some of it might also be filtering out, look, if you're a news junkie, I'm a news junkie, you're a news junkie. Maybe you got to limit that. Maybe you've got to put some gates on that because that is a lot of negativity right now that's coming in.
I think so. I've found that during this, especially as the weather's gotten better, we've taken some walks where we left our phones at home. I think definitely, my search for you can get obsessed with it. There are rabbit holes everywhere that you can go down. And I do think that we need to be careful about that because that does amp up that anxiety because it is an unknown.
Right.
I think my advice that I've given to people and followed myself is focusing on the things we do know. I know a lot of people have been baking bread and cooking and things like that. Those things, tasks like that you can control. That I can go, well, if you're a good bread baker, you can control it. I'm not sure how I do. I have not baked bread, Jim.
Right.
But a task that you can control, a hobby.
Right.
My wife's been painting. My daughter's been making macrame little keychains and things like that. I think a lot of people have turned back to things that, okay, I know from start to finish that I can go in and I can make a meal.
Right.
I can bake a loaf of bread. I know that the garden centers this year sold out of everything. And I think it was because people needed to do something that they had control over.
Right.
I can redo my flower beds. I can plant a garden.
Right.
And so I think balancing all this unknown with known things.
Well, and I think when I come into the office at the beginning of a week or beginning of a day, I'm a list maker.
Yep.
I like to at least make the list. I may not get through everything, and even in a normal day,
Yep.
I may not get everything done, but I'm able to kind of go from point to point to point.
Yep.
And sometimes knowing, okay, I don't have to sit back and think about it because, again, the ability to focus,
Yep.
the ability to execute might be a little less now than it typically is.
Yeah.
So I like my listing.
Jim, I don't know if you know this. You probably do because you're pretty self-aware guy.
I'm glad you put it in those terms. Okay.
But in doing lists, I think you are counteracting that anxiety. Yeah. You are taking charge and putting some control to a situation that can seem very out of control.
Right, chaotic almost.
Routines are. I have felt good getting back into my routine. When I first started during quarantine, I was going to my office to do telehealth, and I got into the habit of wearing a black T-shirt, a long sleeve black T-shirt with a sweater and a pair of jeans. And maybe not the most attractive shoes because nobody sees me. Nobody sees my feet.
Yep.
And also, not taking my son to school. I would sleep in a little bit more.
Get off of that routine.
Off the routine. Yeah. And I think that was okay for a little while. But I have you'll see today. The viewers can't see me, but I'm dressed in my what I call my work uniform, a dress shirt and dress slacks and shoes, and it feels good to be. I'm going to have to go to the cleaners pretty soon. That was something that I had enjoyed not having to do, but getting back into routines and having the familiar and the structured is an antidote to all the uncertainty.
Well, I like that you said the structure. For me, I need that structure.
Yep.
Because I do feel I have a little bit of control.
Yep.
I can't control everything, but this stuff right here, I can self-regulate and I can focus and I can move from task to task, which I think again gives me a little bit more control.
Yep.
And allows me through these routines. It is, as you just said, familiar.
Yep.
And that can be really soothing in terms of my overall mental state, so that when I'm trying to get a task done or I'm interacting with a client or a guest, I'm just more in the moment. And I'm not so distracted. And I can be more effective that way, I think.
Yep. And I tell you who I see that's really, really struggling right now with what we just talked about, with having a routine and some structure in their lives, is younger people. Kids, school-age kids, and even some college kids. I have several young clients, adolescent clients who have recently gotten jobs, and it's done wonders for their mental health.
Well, let's transition into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of business owners, operators have kiddos at home. They have families at home, right?
Yep.
And so you might be seeing your child struggle a little bit, or a lot, depending on the situation. What are some things parents can do to really kind of help those kids cope with, okay, let's understand what's going on, here's some structure, and again, help them to begin to thrive a little bit more, because this has got to be challenging for a lot of them.
I think it is, and I'm seeing kids really start to, initially we did a lot of talking in our groups about how are you coping with the virus and that kind of thing, and initially kids, I'm fine, I'm good, good. I'm not going to get it. My grandma might get it, but I'm not going to get it. And if I do, it'll be mild, and I'm not worried about that. But as you've seen them go without structure now for several months, I think it's starting to take a toll, especially kids who struggle with depression or anxiety or any kind of emotional issue like that. I think, communicating with kids. I know that with my own kids, I know my daughter we had a moment with my daughter. She's almost 20. When it first started, she said, "Mom, Dad, what's going to happen next?" And we looked at each other and said, "We got no idea."
Right.
We never lived through anything like this.
And just being honest about it.
Being honest about it, but also saying, I'm very conscious of the need to reassure and say, "Hey, we're going to get through this." So reassuring our kids that, hey, there will be an end to this. We don't know when it is, but we will get through this. Human beings are innovative and adaptive and resourceful, and we're working on I lost the word.
But that positive messaging.
Yes.
That's security.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of kiddos, that security, that safety issue is paramount to them.
Right.
And it affects a lot of different things. If I don't feel safe, then I'm struggling with everything.
Yep.
But okay, here's mom or dad or someone else coming in and saying, I know there's a lot of negativity out there, but here's some positive things. And again, we will get through this. We will be okay. It may just be a little different for a while.
Sure. And I've got a lot of kids, who worry about my parent has asthma or my parent has heart disease or high blood pressure, whatever, and they're at risk. Or grandma's 83,
right? And
grandma could if she got it could kill her. And those things are true, But I have helped families and kids to really focus on. So what are we doing? When we go to see grandma, we're taking precautions. We're wearing a mask. We're washing our hands. We're not getting within 6 feet of her. These kind of things. With parents, if you have a parent who's compromised, some kids aren't able to work right now because they have a immunocompromised parent. So reassuring them, hey, you're doing everything you can to prevent this.
And that focusing on the controllable facets of life really is reassuring.
Yep.
There's so much beyond our control.
Yep.
The economy, all these other things that are going on.
Yep.
You can't control it. Don't try to. Don't feel a need to. Although I think instinctively we want to, because we like the structure. We like that. Okay, it's planned out. I can understand it.
Yep.
And you've got to really retrench, and you've got to back off a little bit and say, okay, look, I don't have to worry about all that stuff. If I spend the next 2 hours worrying about that, I still haven't changed it.
Yep.
So kind of let it go.
Yep.
And I think for kids that it can be overwhelming for them.
And I think part of the letting it go, some of the neatest stories that I've heard from clients and friends is just families getting back to spending time together.
Not a bad thing.
Now you can spend too much time together, definitely. But I've talked with families who have had picnics in the park.
Yeah.
They've had Zoom parties with friends. They've had cul-de-sac parties in neighborhoods where they get together and play music. I was talking to somebody the other day who they had a cul-de-sac party, socially distanced cul-de-sac party where everybody played some music and they ate food.
Right. But at least you're around somebody else. You're not staring at four walls anymore.
Right. You're hiking. Go hiking. Go walking. All these kind of things that, one, it's quality time together. It's away from the insanity of the world right now. Right. And it's spending time with people you love and care about, hopefully. I know, and I do joke about that, but I know it's put a strain on it. Part of this is that it has put a strain on relationships because people have been cooped up together.
And need a little space, need a little fresh air.
Get a little space, get a little fresh air. I think it's been important for kids, especially as we relax the rules a little bit, to be able to spend time together. If they're being as safe as possible about that. Especially for teenagers who developmentally are sort of launching out of the house, it's important for them to have time with their friends. We made the decision early on to, we talked with my daughter's boyfriend's parents about allowing them to spend time together.
Right.
And, both families, I think, were playing by the rules. We once the quarantine period was over, we started saying, okay, we had to weigh the cost benefit of them being able to see each other.
Right, but you're not ignoring that. You're being open and proactive about it, which again gives you some structure and some semblance of control in the decisions.
Right, and negotiating those kind of things. You know, different people obviously have different comfort levels about things, but you know, just talking through and negotiating what is okay and what is not okay.
Right.
You know.
Well, Tony. We've talked a lot about just the overall impact of COVID. We've talked a lot about, you know, some of the pressures and the amped up situations that business owners are dealing with. And we've talked about, from a parenting standpoint, what your kids may be focused on and you know, some things you can do there. In general, how can Groupworks help?
Well, I think that, you know, obviously if people are struggling and in need of mental health services, you know, that one way we can help is we provide those.
Yeah.
You know, we can, you could become a client and see one of our clinicians. I do, you know, I tell people, I might have told you this before, Jim, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, look, this is going on and this is going on and this is going on, do you think I should see somebody? And my answer usually is, hey, look, if you thought enough about it to come ask me, then the answer is probably yes.
Yeah, there's probably a little hint there. Right.
And you know this about me. I'm a consumer of mental health services.
Yeah,
I'm in therapy myself and have been for many years. And I think that one of the things that I love about what's happened in our society, and I think particularly here in Louisville, is that the stigma around receiving mental health services has diminished greatly
That's been such a leap forward. That's been such a positive step forward.
Yeah, I'm not going to put a number on how long I've been in the field, but it's a little bit of time, and I have seen that reduce. So you know, and we really we try to be a practice that works to destigmatize and works to make people feel comfortable receiving mental health services, that we normalize it. You know, we've gotten the feedback that we're professional but not overly stuffy.
Right.
And I like that. That's the goal that I have. I want it. You know, we've had people say, you know, I enjoy coming here. And that's what we want. We want people to feel comfortable coming in and talking about whatever it is that they need to deal with. So, you know, we're definitely available for that, and there's information on our website about how to access our services.
And again, that's groupworksky.com. And you've got a pretty active Facebook page as well. And if you go to Facebook and just look for Groupworks, one word.
Yep, Groupworks on Facebook, and the website. The website's a great way to learn about us. And you know, how other ways we can help, I think, is like I mentioned earlier, we have those resource pages that, and if you look at our service pages closely, where it says services on our website, there are links embedded in there to resources.
Right.
So we've really tried to build a website that's a resource for people. That, like I said before, whether you become a client or not, I think there's something on our website that would benefit you, that would take you to another, whether it's content on our website that might be helpful, or those links that we've tried to construct and build of reputable services that people can access.
Well, and I love the fact that whether it's your website, your Facebook page, all of this, the conversations, the content you produce, it's making mental health much more approachable. And as you said, the stigma's changed a lot. And you know, I've gone through therapy and counseling on a number of different topics and issues over the years, and it's so helpful if you can just kind of get past the what's everybody else going to think. It's not about that.
Right.
It's helping you think properly about the situations you're in, coping, dealing, and moving forward.
Right.
And that's empowering. And again, that's another good way to kind of get through all these other stressors. Is it might be a good time to pick up the phone and say, hey, can I come in for a couple of sessions and just, you know, help me understand.
And I like the way you said that. You know, there one stigma that I think may be remaining about mental health services is that, you know, if you come in, you're going to be in for 20 years.
Right.
And that's just not true. I've had clients come in for 1 or 2 sessions.
They're quick
and
tune-up.
feel like they get what they need. Obviously, some people are going to be need more and be in longer. We are a very flexible and collaborative practice in terms of what treatment looks like. And I would encourage people, even if they don't become a client of Groupworks, wherever you go, speak up for what you need. If you feel like you need a one-time consult, say that. Negotiate with that provider about that. I think there's no shame in accessing mental health services during this time.
Yeah.
To say that we are, I have reminded my clients on multiple occasions when people are saying, why am I struggling so much? And I've kind of, I've inserted into the conversation, could it be that we're in the midst of a global pandemic?
Just maybe.
And I think that we do have to remind ourselves that, there are indicators that, Americans are the unhappiest we've been in 50 years right now. People are feeling that things are not going in a good direction. And it doesn't take a lot. You look at the news and you say, well, yeah, there it is. Yeah. But we are in the midst of something unprecedented.
Right.
And particularly for those business owners, it's you have your colleagues, you have your friends, you have your your religious community, whatever community you have. It's okay for that to not be enough. It's okay for you to need to reach out and talk to a professional about it, because it is tough.
And you and your professional colleagues are going to approach this maybe a little bit differently, because you understand how the mind works. You understand what's maybe driving some of that anxiety.
Right.
And you might be able to provide ways for us to kind of work through that and deal with it, accept the things we need to accept, obviously. But again, that gives you that sense of proactive, hey, I'm taking control of this. Yep. So that comes back to the structure. That comes back to I can handle this part of it, so that you are more impactful when you walk back into that office, when you walk back through your door at home and deal with your family, so that you're a little bit more calm. You've kind of rebalanced that perspective.
Yep, absolutely.
And again, your profession does a great job in helping people to finally, this is okay, and hey, here's a tip. And again, like you said, it may not be 20 years of therapy. It might be a few visits to just kind of get a different perspective and kind of level set again,
right?
And get back into it. And sometimes that little time out is worth everything.
Yep.
So, hey, Tony, I know you're busy. I really, really appreciate the friendship we've developed. I appreciate the time that you've taken out of your practice to show up today for this podcast episode. Tony and I met probably 9 years ago now.
It's been at least that.
We were presenting at a Kentucky Psychological Association's annual conference. And we just hit it off. It was funny how that, we had a mutual friend kind of introduced us.
Yep.
And it's been a great conversation over the last several years about just how things are moving and changing. And I've really appreciated your insights and your input on this. And excited to see your practice flourish. I mean, I know you've recently moved to a new location a couple of years ago, and it just, again, to see that take off. As a business owner operator myself, I'm always happy to see other people taking a stab at it and making it work. So congratulations on your success.
And I value our friendship as well, Jim, and professional relationship. And it's been exciting to see your business flourish. And I remember you telling me a few years ago, thinking about doing a podcast, and it's been neat to see that come into fruition. And I appreciate what you offer to people, and it's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to talk about this topic. It's something I'm passionate about, and it's the difference in this and a lot of other things for us as psychologists is we're living it too.
Right.
A lot of the things that we help people deal with, we may or may not be experiencing it ourselves. And I think a challenge for us, and the reason that a lot of us have accessed mental health services, to be honest, in this time, is that we are helping people with something that we ourselves are in the midst of.
Well, in that ability to empathize, beyond just to understand, but to empathize, gives you a leg up sometimes.
Yeah, and I've heard. I was in Kroger the other day, and I heard the announcement over the loudspeaker that said practice social distancing and that kind of thing, and it ended with "we're all in this together."
Right.
And when I first started hearing that phrase, I kind of rolled my eyes and said, whatever. But that's true. we are all in this together, and we are, I think, in most cases, working together and supporting each other in ways that hopefully will get us through this.
Oh, I think so. And I'm glad there are people and resources like you out there, Tony. So again, friends, thank you for your time. I know this episode's been a little long, but I hope you found some nuggets of help and value in this podcast episode. And I would definitely encourage you to go visit Tony's practice. It's groupworksky.com and follow up with him if there's an opportunity for you guys to get together. And by all means, we'll continue to put out these podcasts. They're a little bit more informational, a little bit more informative for you, I hope, anyway. And if you'd like to, go out to Google Podcast, go out to Apple iTunes, which is now Apple Podcast, and subscribe to this. If you're unfamiliar with podcasts, maybe this is the first couple you've listened to or the first episode you've ever listened to, when you subscribe to a podcast, it doesn't mean you're signing up to pay anything. That just means that when you subscribe, whatever notification you use, whether that's your cell phone or iTunes or whatever that is, they send you a notification every time there's a new episode available so that you just don't miss the information that might be helpful or useful for you. So again, I want to say thank you to Tony. I want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this as well. And regardless of where things are for your business right now, it's going to get better. We're going to get through all this. And as Tony said, we are in this together. So let me encourage you to stick in the fight, raise your hand when you need help. And when you're ready, let's grow for it.